Hey guys, if you're listening to the podcast, if they're hearing this, they're obviously listening to the podcast, right? Right? If you're enjoying this podcast or you just want to support the podcast, make sure you subscribe on YouTube, turn on the notifications. Thank you for the support.
We stood front row at that show that they played at Aftershock all day.
Oh, you waited.
All day.
Yeah.
And like the photo, man, I mean, it's like symbolic.
Oh, you know what? I have seen that.
This is a professional This is a professional photographer that Timmy, stalked and found.
Oh, it was probably on the Aftershock page. They posted a ton of pictures after.
So we're the only ones wearing white shirt in a cloud of darkness. It's like from the ashes rise,
Podcast is brought to you by our friend and realtor Naomi Townsends with Keller Williams Property Teams. She'll help you in every step of the way, whether you're buying or selling a home, commercial property, mobile home, or even a vacant lot. In the last few years, she's helped hundreds of families buy their dream homes in the Central Valley, Bay Area, Monterey, and even the Sacramento area. Check her Zillow profile where she has a perfect 5-star ranking. She is also bilingual in Spanish. In 2021, she was in the national top 2 in her brokerage. Please, guys, check out her Instagram, Sold by Naomi, or reach out to her at 408-623-1414. All the links are in the bio. Remember, guys, support those who support us. This podcast is brought to you by our friends at Sorensen's Ace Hardware, located at 402 Washington Avenue in Los Banos, proudly serving the community since 1947. Please check out our friend at Sorensen's for all your hardware needs. Come on, guys, support those who support us. Thanks, Sorensen's.
You gotta get uncomfortable to get comfort.
There's some help. It ain't on the way. It's already waiting for you.
This little pill right here can take over your life, and I found that out the hard way. Mission statement of this podcast highlights stories of people that I've met in my journey in recovery. And we're here with Marc E, man. Yeah. First of all, thank you for allowing us into your home and sitting with us and doing this. So I know Marc. So my first experience with Marc is I think I was barely out of treatment. And he came down and he chaired a meeting that I go to in Los Banos, and his share was just very attractive to me, right? He was in a good place in his life. He was happy. And he was one of those guys where like, man, I really want what this guy's got, right? Yeah. This guy's got something to offer. And I've got to know him over, the past almost 7 years, right? And he just is always happy. Right, he gives like the best hugs in NA. I'm not supposed to say that, but he gives he's that guy, right?
He gives the best hugs.
He gives the best hugs. And so, man, Marc, thank you again for doing this.
Yeah, no problem, man. So, what a strange trip it's been, Like I was thinking about all this stuff, I was like watching all these other podcasts, and I was just like, man, and then I was starting to get like on the podcasts of comedians and stuff, and I was like, I can spin both ways,
Right.
And so I was thinking about it, and it's as simple as this, man. One of my favorite things that I truly live by is lost dreams awaken and new possibilities arise, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That speaks in so many volumes, because like I was telling you just a minute ago, like when I got here, bro, I couldn't rub 2 words together to make a sentence. You know what I mean? Every word out of my mouth was either a lie or some type of fabrication of what I thought was the truth. Right? And so and I was just fragmented, like totally distraught, broken, like funny thing about my clean date is,
so what is your clean date?
So my clean date is January 2nd, 2015. And I came up with that day, right? I needed some help, so my, this lady that I look up to, that's like basically more than at the time was a counselor. She was my mom, right? And I was really comfortable with her. She was sitting there with me, and she's like, "When was the last time you used?" And I was like,
Sorensen's also has a Modesto location located at 1433 Coffee Road. Modesto, true value for all your hardware needs. For all of our people out in the Modesto area, please support those who support us. Thank you.
I know no, I tried to drink on New Year's Eve. And she goes, okay, well, we're going to say you're clean now. So it's the 2nd. So today is your clean date. And I was like, awesome. You know, what a day, man. You know, like I said, I was broken and every which way you could imagine. Right. And so I remember I had at the time prior to me going into, following through with the CPS stuff and all that, like I had destroyed my car. I had a Dodge Caravan and I destroyed it. I ripped the ignition out of it and hot wired it myself because I hid the keys from myself. You know what I mean? Like these are the things we do, right? Yeah. Because, you know, there's a big conspiracy going on. Anyways, you know, so I had to rebuild that car, right? I got the opportunity because, like, you know, another thing I say a lot is that, you know, I was really good at destroying things. Right. You know, if like, let me picture this. You know, there's the guy that owns the scrapyard. He could tell you, I was a legend, bro. Right. Like if there was an Olympic sport or Olympics for dumpster diving and scrapping copper wire, like I would have had a gold medal for sure. You know? And so like I was good at breaking down like magnetos from dryers and all kinds of stuff, right? Destroying things, right? And like putting that car back together, put in perspective that I can do something different, you know? Right. And so that was my means to get around, you know? So I had to do, you know, we had to get it together. And, you know, fast forward through all that, you know, I did really good in that program, you know, not only me, but like me and my wife as a couple, we did that is to the best of our ability, you know. I never thought she would be on this journey with me, you know. It's kind of important, you know. I do have paperwork that I'm a snitch because I ratted out my lady straight up, you know. I don't know what it was, and I'll tell you about it. Look, so in 2014, on November 20th, probation came to the first sweep of my house. Not this house. My daughter lives in it now, right? And I thought it was some weird coincidence because it was the day I wanted to quit, right? And they came. And so I walked outside and I handed them, you know, my last pipe I had, and I said, take me away. You know, I'm tired of this, right? I'm tired of this. And so they were not, you know, is on board as I was, and they had further questions to be dealt with inside the house, right? They weren't gonna settle for not going in, right? They're like, we're already here, you know, we're gonna go in. So yeah, they go in my house. I have a couple of friends living there that we share the same probation officer. It's nice. A mess, right? And you know, all I can remember is you know, as they were going through the house, they had me on the couch and my wife on the couch, and you know, we weren't married yet, but I had my one of my middle daughters had just got home from school. My youngest were there, and as I was sitting on this couch, man, you know, I knew something was going to happen. I just didn't know what. You know when you get that feeling? Yeah. And so I got this feeling, man, and sure enough, they find a bag in a purse in the bathroom in the master bedroom, right? And I don't know what it was, man, but maybe it was, you know, a higher power or something, but the voice, you know, and I'm under a psychosis right now too, so, but whatever it was, it told me, tell him it's hers. Like, she's got to go down with me, right? Has to go down this way. And it was milliseconds that I fabricated this whole thing in my head, right? But I said, as soon as the officer asked, whose is this? I said, it's hers. And, hey, you laugh now, but I'll tell you what, man, she stayed clean. Right. I don't know what it was, man. I don't know if it was, but it's not something for me to know. Right. You know what I mean? I just know I was sick and tired of going to different programs. I would get a couple days clean, and then the day before I needed a test, I would be dirty, and the counselors, you know, bless their hearts, would be like, "Why do you always keep coming up dirty?" I'm like, because you don't understand, and I didn't want to throw anybody else under the bus, but I was like, I live at a house that they still use drugs, you know. Yeah. And I was like, I'm gonna save them all together. We're gonna develop a pattern, right? Or a method where I sleep this many amount of days, and then the drugs will be weaned off, and then she's gonna sleep, and I'll take care of the kids. We had these ideas, right? The thing that they told me, man, stuck out true to me was that you are in a hole with your family, and you can't get them out until you get out. And so I had to do everything in my power to, get that ladder down that, hole and get them out of there and stuff. So, this is time goes by and all this stuff happens. But I'll tell you, back to what I was saying about lost dreams awaken and new possibilities rise. I got that car running, right? I got that Dodge running. It looked janky as could be, right? But it was running. I got the parts from, what was it? Pick and pull, rebuilt it and all that stuff. And like things started happening, right? As I continued to stay clean. I decided to go back to school. I had to stay away from my house, that house. Once the kids were reunified there, I had to stay away for about 5 months. And my sponsor, he was telling me like, this is important right now. I know you think you can go to the house, but you can't go to the house. You can't even be around the corner from the house. Right. You need to understand that. And so like I had to develop these systems where I got to still see my wife, because for the first time in my life, like I remember, from the day that I told her, don't leave me, when I was when I went to the mental, I got 5150, I remember, man, I was crying, a genuine cry that day, because I used to do that fake crying stuff all the time, but today it was different. I told her, don't leave me. I know I messed up, but don't leave me, right? Because all I did, this lady loved me for who I was, as dirtbag as could be, still didn't ever leave me,
Right.
And so, now I'm developing this new relationship with her, and I'm spending time with her, and I'm like, the thought was there, man. I got married when I had 2 years clean, and so I developed these relationships with her. Like, I generally learned how to talk to her rather than always expecting something in return, And man, I'll tell you what, it's changed my whole perspective on things. A good friend of mine says that, my perspective on things is I find contentment rather than, because I could do anything I want, right? Is what he told me. He goes, you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it. But I love your contentment with where you're at.
Right.
The peace, man. The peace is what was the most important thing to me, because I never had that, right? And now look at us. I was just telling you guys right now, I got a family. I got 11 grandkids, man.
Yeah, that's
I got
wild.
6 kids, and it's like all of a sudden I moonlight for daycare services, marriage counselor, and party assortment planner and all that stuff. I mean, we got it going on, man. Money, it doesn't matter about the money. It's about the time that I invest in this stuff,
Right.
And
So let's run it back even further, right? Because we jumped right into the meat and potatoes of like how everything fell apart and then getting clean. But like, what did it look like for Marc, like growing up? Like, what led you into this cycle where you thought drugs were the solution to whatever was going on?
Man, I'll tell you what, man, it was abandonment. My older brother was the like my ultimate idol, right? Everything down, like, he would go clubbing. He was a DJ. And all that stuff. He had his music stuff in the garage, put me on game on music, from a young age, as I was a little kid, I was listening to all these tracks that I'd never heard of. You don't hear them on the radio, and spinning records and all that stuff. And so when he left, man, like I held onto his blanket that he had in our house because he was living there, and I smelled his blanket, and it smelled like cigarettes and cologne. But yeah, I was like, I want to know what this smell is, and I want to know what this is. And then aside from that abandonment, when he moved away, right, it was like I started fantasizing that of myself as being somebody else, right? Most of the time it was like a vampire or some type of, superpower character, you know, something out of the ordinary, right? I wanted to be somebody other than who I was. Right. So
I get it. Like when I was 13, you couldn't have told me I wasn't going to be the middle linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers, right? Or I wanted to be a cop. Like I always envisioned myself, or Hulk Hogan or some crazy shit like that. So I get it. Like always wanting to be something that you're not.
And you know, the other aspect to that was, and it's unfortunate, but like, you know, my dad was a Catholic, right? And he married my mom, and my mom was a Jehovah's Witness, and he abandoned his religion for that life. Right. And so, you know, I remember going at a young age, man, I was like, this is a crock of shit. You know, I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't celebrate birthdays. You know, I always had this disconnection with the other kids because I was something different, you know? Right. And so I always felt out of place. I used to leave and sneak away and then get my ass handed to me because I had ran away to a party just to enjoy what a birthday party was. You know what I mean? It's crazy stuff, man. And
it's stuff that can confuse a kid, right? It leaves you wondering where you belong in this world,
like,
right?
Why can't I participate? I would have to make my own makeshift costume when I got to 80 Givens. That's one of the elementary schools here. I'd make some kind of like makeshift disguise when I got there on Halloween to feel a part of.
Right.
Because I could not do that at home. You know what I mean? I could not be involved like that. You know, it goes against the religion, you know?
Well, and even something is so pure like that, right? Like as a kid wanting to feel like you belong, and then learning how to have to manipulate at home to feel part of.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine how that escalates as you get older, right?
Well, yeah, I didn't do good in sports. You know, I never got picked for the team and stuff like that. And so, like, I remember in 5th grade, like, I picked up violin, right? And I did pretty good. I played violin, I played viola, I played cello, and the last one was stand-up bass, which led me to play, like, bass guitar, you know? And so, you know, I was in orchestra, you know, and that for once was my niche, right? My special gift that I could do is I could articulate myself through the notes, you know. I never was one for like the brass instruments, you know, even though I had a weird fascination with brass later on in life. You'd think that would carry, but like string instruments was always my thing, you know, and in hand, just like any, you know, musician, drugs became part of the situation, you know.
Right.
And it happens to the best of us, you know.
And so is that how like this progresses for you? Like,
yeah, it you know, through cousins when I would visit them, you know, we'd get, you know, we'd do some things, drinking and stuff like that. But then the music, now the music sounds better because I'm under the influence, and
right.
Yeah, and so it just got crazy, man.
Yeah, no, I get it, because I used to go in junior high. I used to go hang out at this house, right? This buddy named Josh, and his brother was in a metal band. And you would go to the house, nobody was ever home. The older brother was in a metal band, and then we would just sit there and all get high and listen to him play Led Zeppelin on the guitar. And it was like, oh God, like he was a legend, right?
A legend.
And for me, like I'm like in the coolest spot in Las Banos. Like it's all happening right here.
Yeah.
Now, with a little perspective, you know, having had a kid that's in high school now, I look and I'd see those kids in junior high, and I'd be like, I was so small and impressionable. Like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, is that how it progresses, like, through high school and then into your adult life? 'Cause, I mean, you have to start having kids young, too.
Yeah, well, I think I had my son at, like 20 or something, 09. I graduated 05. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't too far after that, you know, but yeah, the impressionism, you know, I was literally like 4'5" or something like that when I was in 6th grade, right? And by the time I got to 8th grade, I grew into the bass, right? Like I pushed myself, and my growth spurt connected in the same way to where I got to about my height now, 6'1", you know? So I learned how to move my fingers real long to get the notes, you know, and stuff like that. And yeah, Les Claypool, you know, he was in my head all the time, you know.
No, see, that's cool because and honestly, like all the way up until that point, it seems like you're living the American dream as a boy, right? Like you learn to play guitar, everything's progressing, and then so like when does things start getting unmanageable for Mark?
So this is the thing. Even through high school, man, I get what you're saying, you know, because there's that churning point when you stop doing certain drugs and you do the other drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
And it did happen like that, you know. I mean, I was the Slater's son, if you will, like from, you know, Dazed and Confused, for many years, you know,
Right.
and everything was all good and gravy like that, you know, but there was this turning point when you know, I get involved in the harder stuff, and then your friends that just smoke weed don't even want to hang out with you no more. They're like, where you been for 2 weeks?
Right.
You know, and they're all getting at me like they're my old lady, you know, and I'm like, bro, I just, you know, been busy. I'm nodding off trying to hang with them, and I can't do it no more. You know, I remember that. I remember that turning point where it didn't work the same way. You couldn't smoke weed anymore once you smoked meth. You know,
Yeah.
it don't work, you know? It's
all my friends were on the same downward path, right? Like it was crazy because we would all try something, we'd all try it together, and we'd all seem to love it, right? And so I
Yeah.
don't have this separation thing.
Oh, I did, bro.
Yeah.
I did. I found that other crew, right? Because it happened where you just go. I was like, when I got back into using harder drugs, you know, I had a kid in my class, and he invited me to a party, and they were twisting the bubble, you know, and then that transition to another place that, you know, I had friends that just smoked weed, maybe did mushrooms, maybe a little LSD once in a while, but always on that category of drugs. They didn't venture off the path from there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Then I started developing friends that it was crack pipes and crimes, you know?
Well, and how long does it take to get from there to like the dumpster diving champion of the world, right? As you self-proclaimed.
and you know, it seemed like it wasn't long. Like in looking at it now, it really wasn't long. You know, within a couple years in my 20s, you know, it got bad. I stopped entirely hanging out with all those friends that, you know, kids from school, all that stuff, all gone, right? They all had wandered off, and now I'm involved in, you know, I mean, I met my wife in the streets of the disease, you know,
Right.
Straight up in the mix, you know. She was trying to pimp me out on a corner because she said, "You are beautiful." And she was like, "I can make some money off your ass." And I was like, "Jesus, I want you to know, I'm a free agent. All right. I work my own streets." And so, you know what I mean? Like, that's where I was. And now I'm involved in this new lifestyle of,
Right.
and every time, I'll tell you what, EJ, they would tell me, like, you don't belong here. How are you going to tell me I don't belong here while I'm the downest motherfucker here?
Right.
You know what I mean? And that hurt me. And so I would use more. I would progress more until, you know, the ways and means became so hard that I had to, you know, I chose to go out, and I was like, well, there's a good knack for things. Plus there's a lot of cool stuff out there. And, you know, and I would ride my, shopping cart like I was an Olympic bobsledder. You know what I mean? I would be riding up and down my street and all through the night, you know, especially around Thursday nights because pickup was Friday, you know. And from there it went to, you know, I found a knack for copper wire, man, you know, and the people that were involved that shared the same interests, you know.
Right. Finer things in life.
Yeah. We became we were into commodities, bro. You know, we upped our game. Like I like to tell people I was into commodities, like gold, brass, you know, silver, aluminum, things like that. And I wasn't the one. I wasn't that guy that was out there stealing catalytic converters. That kind of like that took too much effort. Right. I was more down to go pull power lines down, right? I was down 99, you know, southbound. There used to be old power lines that used to like hang down like this, and I would rip those ones off, and then I would find other ones. I'd rip open transformers, you know, and I've had some close calls. Okay. And this is the funny part. I'm a freaking electrician now, bro. Working in an industrial plant. I was like, if that doesn't speak to the volume of what I said from the beginning, you know, lost dreams awaken and new possibilities arise. Like today I build things.
Right.
You know, I just, a couple years back, me and my boss, you know, my boss was like my work sponsor. You know, we were coworkers, and he's from Iran, and he, you know, he put me up on game on how to, you know, how to be an electrician, like full-heartedly. You know, we do correct things. We don't do bullshit work, you know, and we take pride in what we do. And at the end of the day, we got to figure it out.
Right.
And so with this new vast knowledge that I had, right, like I learned how to revamp a couple of machines that we had. I rebuilt 8 machines at my work.
Awesome.
You know, from the blueprint that he gave me from the first one.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's
and so I had vendors looking at me like, hey, you know, he's slipping me cards or something like that. Like, if you ever want to go somewhere else. And then back again, man, I found the contentment with being where I'm at. Right. I was on nights for 3 years, and then I made it to days, and I'm at top of my pay. You know, it's a beautiful thing to come home every night, because I got a rule with my wife. She's like, I want you home so I can rub her leg against my leg. You know what I mean? Simple as that. As simple as it is, it means the world to us, you know? And so I haven't found the need to go venture to some other, you know, avenue, because most of the other jobs in this career that at the level I'm at, I'll have to be flying out to jobs, probably stay there. You know what I mean? I don't know if I do too good about, you know, venturing off like that. You know what I mean? I've never tried it, but I don't think I want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I like coming home.
You feel like you belong.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it seemed to be the theme from when you were a kid. Even when you were going into the worst places, they still say you don't belong here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what was your first exposure? You're talking about finding a place where you belong, right? Like, what was your first exposure to recovery? Because I have to imagine that happened before you ever got clean, right?
Well, so my dad had been in the Elder Fellowship, you know, and would give me things like when I first got this idea of recovery, he gave me like his medallion, you know. I think it was his 10-year medallion. He's like, if you could put this in your mouth and it dissolves, you could get high again. You know what I mean? Like that's the things he told me. You know what I mean? And I was like,
that shit don't make sense.
Right?
He tried.
Yeah, I was all, oh fuck it. I'm like, but like. So I had seen it before, and plus not only that, but like in 2010, dude, like when I got busted for $100,000 worth of stolen stuff from Golden Valley High School, like I was on ABC News at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, you know, from Fresno, the Fresno, you know, chapter, and getting seeing that on the news. Everybody in the dorm when I was locked up that night, they were like, hey, who's this guy? But in back of my mind, man, I'm thinking my mom's reputation, you know, my mom worked super hard to get where she's at today. So not only that, my sister and all that. And so all their reputations were shot, you know, it is what I felt like, you know,
Right.
But, that's where I got introduced to recovery the first time, was in 2010. And I went to a treatment facility in Modesto. It was called TLC at the time. And, you know, I did a 30-day program or whatever. And man, I'll tell you what, it's like, I'm kind of grateful that I had this willingness from the gate, right? I knew I didn't want what was going on anymore. And I knew there was something, like I believed these people when they said there was something out there that was different, that, you know, this new way of life.
Right. And so what didn't change?
Well, you don't put the effort in the program.
Right.
You're only going to get what you get, you know, what you put in. And I was on the, you know, 1 foot in, 1 foot out from the beginning, you know, reservations, man.
Yeah.
It's a very important part, you know, that we have to fully address. And
what is a reservation for somebody listening?
Like a reservation is, you know, if you have something tucked away in the back of your mind, wherever it is, like in your back pocket sometimes, it could be, metaphorically speaking, you can have it somewhere close, but when you get to this point, you're going to use it again.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I had them, man. We were getting clean, I was getting clean, and I got out of the treatment facility and all that. I get back home. I'm starting to read my literature, but my wife is not there, right? And shortly after, if it was us not arguing about either you need to do this, because I was trying to run her program, which kind of ghosted her out of the rooms, at that time. It was like I didn't know how to. I wanted control. Right. And so I had this reservation that, like, if she used, I was going to use too. And so I beat her to it, because of the job that I get a new job at a restaurant, and I'm working there and stuff in the kitchen and being a dishwasher and all that. And one thing led to another, and it hit me in that one spot, and that reservation looked real nice. And so I get home that night and I find her using, and then I'm all, well, I got mine too. You know what I mean? It's like it was a matter of time.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's what the difference was when I came back again with the seed planted from the first time, right? I knew there was a different way. Right. And so, like, the circumstances with snitching out my wife and all that stuff had to go down the way it did,
Right. Well, and then how do things change after that moment, right? Because we talked about that earlier, right? And then that you have this epiphany, right? And boom, all this stuff happens. And I got to imagine your wife wasn't too happy with you in that moment.
Oh, I'll tell you what, man. I remember exactly the whole ride there. It's amazing how you can remember everything. It's like I have a memory like an elephant. You ever heard that saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's true, man. Like, I remember on our ride there, right? First we were at County, and then we finally hitched the bus to Sandy Mush, and they put her in the back container, right at the back part of the bus, and in the kind of cage-like looking thing, and I'm on the back seat. And the whole time, man, she's telling me, I fucking hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. Why did you put me here? Why did you do this to our kids? I was like, and all I was concerned about was smelling her, right? Because I was like, I know where I'm going. So I need a good smell of something to remind myself that I'm gonna make it through it, right? Like even in the grips of things, I'm still like something to hold on to,
right,
to give me that hope, right? And so I remember right when we got to the Sandy Mush Walls, like I get to a point where we're separating, and she's going to the women's dorms and I'm going to the men's, and she tells me, I hate you, but I love you and take care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, in that moment, yeah, she could be pissed all she wants. And, the more important part was when we finally both were at home for that small amount of time. Hold on. Who's that? Oh, you could edit that out, huh?
Yeah. You can edit it all out.
So, in that small amount of time, like, when we were at home, like, we didn't go back upstairs. I had to be there. I had to make sure she was all right, because it wasn't, she could be pissed at me. She's been pissed at me and she gets over it, but the harder fact was our kids weren't there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, when is it about that? It's not about us no more. It's about, we're the children caught in the crossfire, and this was a prime example of it. And so things changed, man. We started listening to what people were saying in meetings, Like, I remember I had a friend that told me, he goes, man, I can fuck up a glass of water. And I go, I can totally relate. You know what I mean? And things like that, man, is what was that change of, it's the saying goes that when I change my perception on reality, my reality changes.
Right.
It was like that, man.
And so how long of a period of time was it for you guys getting out to where you ended up getting the kids back? And what did that look like?
It was real short for her. Right. Under the circumstances of things, like her action plan, just going to her like 3-month program, got the kids back, because in the reports, you just seen my daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't like me very much. They didn't like me at all very much. And with total reason and understanding, you know what I mean? And so in the report, it was more that I was a threat.
Right.
And so that's why I said earlier, I had to be gone from the house for about 5 months. You know what I mean? I continued to make sure we got the rent paid and all that stuff. But I was out of the picture for about 5 months, and I was at my mom's house in Chowchilla. Man, I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for, meetings, I love how the fact that we have meetings worldwide.
Right.
Right. I love the fact that I can call a hotline and I can usually find a meeting. And I did, man. And, because I was going to the meeting in Merced during like the nooner meeting. And, but this night, man, I needed a meeting bad. And I drove to Madera and I got a hold of, that group out there. And, man, it was at the right time, at the right spot at the right moment and all that stuff, man. It was great, and that just keep coming back.
Right.
And
so how does from that point, it takes 5 months to get you back in the house. And then what's that process look like of you and your wife starting to learn how to live together with recovery in your life? Because sometimes once people get clean, they're like, shit, I don't even really like you.
Yeah.
Right? How did that go for you guys?
It was a beautiful transition, man.
Right.
I had to learn, my sponsor put me on a 3-month, 90 days, no sexual kind of contact, right?
In the same house.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying, man. I had to learn how to talk to her.
Man, you're willing and open-minded.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was like, let's do this, And in that time period, I'll tell you what, it was the most uncomfortable thing because I was getting back-to-back, STD checks and HIV checks and just the whole 9 yards for months. I was doing that just to make sure that from the wreckage of my past,
right,
didn't follow me to recovery. I wasn't, I didn't have Hep C or something like that or something far worse, like HIV. And so I got to do some footwork in this process of learning how to talk to her and be there for her and in all types of areas, this is my best friend, man.
Right.
And it was great to this day. I've been off for 3 weeks, man. And every day I kick it with her on the couch.
So you learned how to be intimate with your wife, right? And we have a different definition of intimacy in recovery.
Yeah.
Right? My sponsor would say, do you even know how to be intimate? I'm like, yeah, you have sex, right? That's what, right?
Yeah,
it's
nothing
not
to do
that,
with
right? Into you, I see.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're learning all these new processes on how to live.
Yeah.
Right? And what I see today is beautiful. You walk into your home, you live in a beautiful home, right? You got pictures of all this family on the walls.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean to you? Being where you've been, right? And where you're at today, what does that mean to Marc?
It means the world to me, man.
Right.
It's so profound. I could never imagine this being loaded, and when we have annual trips that we go to Point Lobos, up by Monterey.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. And we take our family photos, right next to the water because I literally want to be buried in that place. And I told my wife, I was like, I don't care how you do it. I know it's a national forest and all that stuff, but you figure it out. But you know what I mean? Those are the moments, man, today. It's like my friend said, he goes, it's not about the money. It's about the moments.
Right.
And I cherish every little bit of time because I'm a workaholic on the other aspect of things, aside from sponsorship, service positions, going to meetings and I'm at work, sometimes up to 72 hours a week. And I still find time because I figured out a long time ago, there ain't time. I got to make it. You know what I mean? Even if it's in minute spurts. And today I've found more of a balance with it, and my family time, I'm trying to do things with my kids that I didn't do when they were babies, when they were young. I take my son fishing right up the street right here, and we go to, other spots, and we try to go to cabins and it's tough when you hear it from the older kids that like their younger siblings are having this wonderful life, you know. And I'm like, I can never take back or turn back time. And, you know, we can't restore that to the life it was, but you're totally welcome to be involved in it now. And I have some tough dynamics with my family, with my older kids especially, you know. But
how do you work on those relationships? You know, like, do you just continue to do the positive things you're doing and hope those ties restore themselves, or do you?
Well, it's like this, man. It's like I get to practice my living amends to my family, right? To the people caught in the crossfire, right? My children caught in the crossfire, you know. Like I get to practice one of our you know, what we say, you know, traction rather than promotion.
Right.
Like I treat my wife like she is gold. Like she is, you know, I'm just loving and caring, honest with her. I hear her out. Not since I've been clean, there's never a derogatory word used to talk to each other. You know what I mean? And our life before that was gaslighting each other and all, you know what I mean? Like we've gotten fist fights, you know, and all kinds of stuff, you know? So we shared blood in multiple ways, you know? And so like, yeah, like for my kids, like, especially with my daughters, man, I try to show them what a healthy relationship looks like.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can't tell them you need to do this and you need to do that, because they're going to do whatever they're going to do. And I get to love them where they're at. You know what I mean? But I don't always have to agree with what they say, and I get the opportunity to, and I'm working on this more, is effectively telling them in a loving kind of manner, like you don't have to do this, you know.
Right.
There's so much more to life. It's just, it may look boring, because that's the new norm now. This lovey-dovey kind of stuff is
right.
like that's so old. That's boring. It's not realistic. Like, how could you not be like upset with each other? I'm like, no, we just talk in a different manner when we are upset.
Right.
You know what I mean? Instead of immediately flying off the hinges or breaking something or, you know, calling each other out our names, we effectively talk, you know.
Well, and sometimes, like, I mean, I know relationships can at times be the most difficult thing, right?
And they are. Yeah, I feel for these newcomers that get in relationships. I'm like, man, that's a horrible mistake. Do you love yourself even? You know?
Right? Well, and that was like me, you know, coming out of treatment, right? And then I'm trying to prove myself, you know, and it wasn't comfortable for a long time until it got comfortable, right? Yeah. And it just, the process was me continuing to do what I need to do to be a better human being. Then everything that's going to fall into place falls into place. It's
like we were saying, man, like the drug counselors were telling me back in the day, you know, you need to, it's the only difference is, instead of me getting out of a hole to save my family, I need to love myself before I can love anybody else.
Right.
You know what I mean? I need to effectively tell myself in the mirror, like, you're beautiful, you know, not to blow my ego out of the position, but like I have, like, you know, been in positions where I've like thought of myself less. My self-esteem was low.
Right.
Sometimes it takes you to look in the mirror and say, you know what, you're going to do amazing things today. And that can change your whole perspective.
Right.
You know?
And so, like, how long did that take for you? Because I got to imagine on that ride to Sandy Mush, Mark wasn't feeling too good about himself, right? So how long did it take for you to start feeling good about yourself, that you could do the things that you're doing today?
Well, like I said, you know, once I was in that that dependency drug court and all that, like my willingness was completely open, and my open-mindedness was completely open. Everything was, I was ready to, it was like this. Picture this. My sponsor told me, be gullible to the program.
Right.
And so I did. I absorbed it like a sponge. You know what I mean? I was all in it. And to this day, I'm still all in it. You know what I mean? Like, I live and breathe the program. And so, like, it didn't take long, because I started working on my steps right away, man. I smashed those reservations that were plaguing me from the past, right?
Right.
I allowed the process to work through me. I understood, when I got to like my third step, there was a changing point where I made that decision to turn my will and life over. Like I knew that it's going to be all right, even if it's not all right. Because no longer was I under this illusion that everything is just going to go bad for me all the time, right? Now I look at things like everything is going to be good, even if it's horrible.
Right.
And it's like that's not to say that it's like I'm blind to bad things, but bad things come, I'm going to get through them. You know what I mean? And I found a peace with it. And it took within the couple, at least a year. I was, I think a year and a half, like 18 months or something like that. I started sponsoring people, and it's not the smartest thing to do. I'll tell you that much. Get a sponsor that worked all 12 of his steps and all that stuff. But in the circumstances I had going on, my sponsor had a full plate, and he's like, "Hey, check it out, dude. You're doing really well. Take a couple of them off.
Take a couple off my hands, right?"
Yeah. And so I did, man, and I learned some things, man. I lost a sponsee in that process with it, like my second sponsee. I lost him. He died. Right. He died using again right by the railroad tracks. And so, and I thought, oh, this is my fault. This is my fault all over again. The guilt and shame ate me up. But I read, because see, this is the difference, right? I pray, read, and write, right? And so especially when I pray, it opens me up. It opens my spirit. When I read, I'm getting the information, and when I write, I get into the solution.
Right.
And through that process, I found out it wasn't my fucking fault.
No, it's not your fault.
I ain't that powerful to make it my fault. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, and I've lost other sponsees, like maybe ones that weren't really working. And I found out what it means to be a sponsor, man. I'm here to guide you. The relationship that we build on when we're working together is profound, right? There's nothing that matches it, right? But as far as like, I ain't your friend. You know what I mean? I ain't your friend. I'm far more than that. You know what I mean? And because friends will lie to you. They will. Co-sign your stuff or, this kind of thing. Like, oh, yeah, you're right. She is horrible, and
Yeah.
I ain't that one.
No.
No, I'm here to guide you through the steps, man. And in that process, that kind of, that brought the peace to all that could be troubling me,
Yeah, and that's a heavy piece, man. Like, because people die from this thing every day, right? And we both know people. We've lost people, and like I heard one today, right? Like I lost a friend, as a matter of fact, today, right? And
I'm sorry.
This guy, he wasn't an addict, right? And he was probably the best of Los Banos, right? Like, I mean, this guy didn't even have kids. He coached Little League teams. He would take time to go help kids with their 4-H and FFA animals, right? And he was in service clubs, 42 years old, right? And you start asking yourself, like, why is this happening, right? And I'm not important enough to know why that's happening. But what I do know is God must have a purpose for me. God must have a purpose for you, because we both should be dead.
Yeah.
Right? And we're still here.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not going to shit on that and not live my life to its fullest,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not going to sit there and think I'm more important than God and try and understand why that happened.
Right.
It just fucking happened.
And you know what? Through this process, there's been some, really good outlooks that I saw. Like when I lost a dear friend, it was like a brother to me, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, back in December, I got asked to be the bearer, the pallbearer, and like his mom remembers when we were out there, when we were kids running amok, right? And I was like, I got the blessing as like saying to her, hey, you know what? You did the best you could with what you had, right? And I love you for that. Thank you for work, because she's clean now too, and she's doing amazing things, right? And so, but like at the end of the day, what I get out of it is we get to live a legacy for the ones that passed,
right?
Regardless if they were just a little close to us, acquaintance, or not, you know, like we get to do something different with the information that we get from when these people pass. Is like we can harness something. We can harness something great out of it, you know? And so like at the end of my shares, you know, I tell this story about, it's like a jelly bean story, right? And it's on YouTube. And they did a study with jelly beans to, you know, conduct this amount makes up your lifespan, right? And like there's a certain amount left, like 2,700 jelly beans left. And that's like your free time, your a very small time that you can do whatever you want. And I would say it would be giving back what was so freely given to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? My sponsor says a story where he would love his heart to be buried under like the meeting facility, you know? So it's just, you know, we carry it in a different way, you know, but it all holds true. And yeah, we are going to go to a lot of funerals.
Right.
Hopefully for ones that pass due to, you know, health issues, you know, circumstances like that, you know, like they battle with cancer, finally went out. And I've been to a couple of those, you know, the hard ones are when they go and relapse, you know. So.
Right. Well, because it's frustrating to be sitting here and knowing how simple it can be to live. You know, just because you get clean doesn't mean you're going to get the house and you're going to get the great job. But you can get a new perspective on life where you can appreciate what you have, right?
Yeah.
And it's a shame when we see people pass away from a disease that we know that there's a remedy to.
Yeah.
Right? We can keep this thing arrested. We can't kill it.
Right.
But we can keep it arrested.
I only got a daily reprieve from a daily disease, man. And I got to put in the work somehow. I got to call somebody. I got to call EJ up or say, hey, what's going on, man? We good? We all right?
Yeah.
All right. I love you, bro. Keep doing amazing things, you know, and then, or I got to go to a meeting, you know, something. I got to work on like after this, I'm going to work on my step, you know. I'm doing step tradition. You know, the steps help me get right with myself and the traditions to coexist with others.
And so like at this point, like in your life, like what keeps you plugged into recovery?
My commitments.
Right.
It's simply about my commitments. Like I have more sponsees than I can count sometimes, depending on when they're there or not. But at least I have a group chat with all of them in it. It's about 16 of them right now.
Wow.
And you know, it's beautiful thing to see like what it's churned out, because I just started it, right? And I said, hey, you guys can't get a hold of me, you can talk in here. And then they all put in like the readings for the daily readings and stuff, and they just bounce off these ideas with one another, you know, and just like it's a support group, man. It's you know, it's amazing. And it's like, so my commitment to them, you know, commitment to the program is like, I love giving back what was so freely given to me.
Right.
Simple. Why would I squander something so awesome? You know, like it's paid me back 10 times fold. You know, there's no way, you know, that I could just say like, you know what, I'm not going to go do this today. Or I'm not, like, I was beating myself up trying to think, how am I going to get to the convention tomorrow? You know? And I was like, wait a minute. I know how to call people, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, I'm dealing with my eye issue, and that's been, you know, challenging for me. Like today I can actually see, you know, but like I have a rare neurological disorder that's called blepharospasm, where my eyes like a couple weeks ago would be blinking right now to where I could barely see you, you know? And in that time, like I was going to work like that, self-willing it. All right, just driving to work with one eye open like this, you know, and to Livingston, and you know, performing my duties and stuff like that. But like, at what cost, you know? Right. And in the time while I'm doing that, I'm like, my morale is slowly slipping away. Right, I'm slowly being defeated and putting myself into depression. Luckily, I really holds true to me with one of the step work questions that says, do I neglect the health of myself or my children in hopes that it will just go away? Well, I can't put this one on the back burner. You know, I need to get it addressed. And so like they gave me, I went to one doctor, another doctor, and then the other doctor, and then I get to a specialist, and then the specialist gives me Botox in my, around my eyelids on the top and the bottom. And it seems to be working. It only lasts 3 months, and then I do the whole thing again, and it's like, once again, like the disease of addiction, it ain't gonna go away. Right. But this is what I'm with now. So I kind of gotta, I gotta be mindful of it. And, my sponsor tells me try to find some holistic ways with it. And all I'm saying is, like, with this disease or any disease, it's like, I gotta stay committed to it. You know what I mean? I like my life today and I don't want to die.
Right.
You know what I mean? If I don't have to leave this earth, because, hey, don't you know, EJ, I was like all the famous rock stars, that died at the age of 27. That's the year I got clean. Right. I was supposed to die like Jim Morrison and Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and Kurt Cobain. I believed that. I wasn't supposed to have kids or none of that stuff. Right. I was destined to die like them because I was a rock star, bro. Right. And I lived. I turned 28. The year I turned 28 is when I got clean.
Found a new way of life.
Yeah.
Right?
God had a new plan, man.
And we're just lucky to be a part of it. Right?
Yeah.
And so before we close out, right? Like, what would you tell somebody that might be listening to this right now or might have stumbled upon it that's either pondering about getting clean or may think they have a problem or that knows they have a problem, like, what would you tell somebody like that?
So, get to a meeting. Right. Don't be afraid to, call those people on those phone lists. We took, basically, we kind of, for the most part, I don't speak for everybody, but I took an oath. If someone calls me from that phone list, I even put just text me, whatever it takes, bro. If you don't want to talk to me, you just want to text me to keep, like, know that you're alive. We do these things for a reason, right? We care about you. We love you until you can love yourself.
So just ask for help.
Just ask.
Right.
Yeah. There's service commitments just designed to help further carry the the message, and not only that, but like to like public resource or public information, all these groups that make it available to others.
Perfect. I think we got it.
Right on.
So now you owe me a hug, Mark. That's how we close this thing out.